So anyway, because Annie's back, and it's awesome to have Annie again. Annie, do you want to start reading tonight?
The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Send emissaries to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelite people. Send one representative from each of their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them." So Moses, by the Eternal's command, sent them out from the wilderness of Paran, all of them being notables, leaders of the Israelites. And these were their names: from the tribe of Reuben, Shemua, son of Zachar; from the tribe of Simeon, Saphat of Ori; from the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Shephunneh; from the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph; from the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea, son of Nun; from the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu; from the tribe of Zebulun, Gaddiel, son of Sodi; from the tribe of Joseph, namely the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, son of Susi; from the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gemali.
You're doing great.
From the tribe of Asher, Sether, son of Michael; from the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Vophsi; from the tribe of Gad, Gael, son of Maki. These were the names of the emissaries whom Moses sent out to scout the land. But Moses changed the name of Hosea, son of Nun, to Joshua.
Okay, if I can ask you to stop in here for just 1 second. I think that there are many parts, but since we have just read this portion in here, it tells you about the veracity of the Bible, because it was somebody that just sat down. Why in the hell would anybody write down this, the son of this, the son of that, and if it was all made up? So this had to be true.
Good.
Michael, why do you think they changed his name?
I'm sorry?
Why would they have changed someone's name? It said
No,
that
no,
they
no, no.
went
Well,
from
on the
Hosea to
contrary.
Joshua.
No, well, I have no idea, but there are many people who question the veracity of the stories that we have in the Bible.
I understand that, but the name change, there must have been a reason for that.
Yeah, that's a great question, but would anybody have an answer for that?
Well, lawyers would say to protect the innocent. But I have no idea.
Actually,
No,
there is commentary here. Moses changed the name of Hosea. So if you see it right down here in the bottom, the change involves the addition of the letter Y or Yud, which with the letter Hey, right? H forms the first part of UK Vav-K.
Oh, Yahweh.
Oh.
Yeah, and symbolizes Joshua's future role as Israel's leader. This part, YH, is sometimes used by itself for the divine name as in Exodus, and frequently as a suffix to human names.
Hard stone.
Elijah. I didn't know that. And Nehemiah 8:17, Joshua was called by yet a third name, Yeshua, which would also be the Hebrew name of Jesus of Nazareth. Ehrlich explains the name change as an attempt by a later biblical tradition to harmonize the stories of the scouts.
Michael, thank you for noticing that, because it really was an enigma. It still is, but it was more of one.
Right. It's interesting. Well, then we could also think about Avram gets changed to Abraham, and Sarai gets changed to Sarah. But this is different a little bit, I'd say, too, because it's actually Moses changing. Do you want to continue, Annie? Anybody else?
When Moses sent them to scout the land of Canaan, he said to them, "Go up there into the Negev and on to the hill country, and see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell in it strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns they live in open or fortified? Is the soil rich or poor? Is it wooded or not? and take pains to bring back some of the fruit of the land. Now it happened to be the season of the first ripe grapes. They went up and scouted the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob and Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negeb and came to Hebron, where lived Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the Anakites. Now Hebron was founded 7 years before Zoan of Egypt. They reached the Wadi Escol, and there they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes. It had to be borne on a carrying frame by two of them, and some pomegranates and figs. That place was named the Wadi of Eshcol because of the cluster that the Israelites cut down there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They went straight to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, and they made their report to them and to the whole community as they showed them the fruit of the land. This is what they told him. We came to the land you sent us to. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the country are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. Amalekites dwell in the Negeb region. Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites inhabit the hill country, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the Jordan. Caleb hushed the people before Moses and said, "Let us by all means go up here, and we shall gain possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it."
Could someone look at my picture, please?
Did you
Yes.
notice that they changed
That's the
Negev to
famous
Negev?
picture.
It was
Wow.
on the bottom before Mike turned the page.
Michael, do you remember this popular carving throughout Israel and how important this was at many of the ancient sites that we went to? There were at least a couple of sites that had this carving on it and is now the logo for Carmel Wines.
Ah,
Is that right? Wow, that's amazing. That's yeah, that's an incredible, such a great story.
Michael,
And-
Michael,
Makes sense,
we
though.
were up on the water. Remember those ruins on the water? Up on the lake, huge lake. I think that was on the Galilee.
Yeah, Yeah.
And we went through all those ruins, and that was carved on one of the walls. That picture.
yeah, it's such a huge symbol. And why don't we finish this paragraph, and then we can talk about the whole idea of, I mean, this is it's so important, so symbolic, right? I mean, and the whole idea of when God gives a gift and we don't accept the gift, then 40 years in the desert, right? I mean, it's such a huge, what's the word? It's as an example, right? It's an example of how to kind of live in a lot of ways. But Annie, why don't you finish up that paragraph?
But the emissaries who had gone up with him said, "We cannot attack that people, for it is stronger than we." Thus they spread calumnies along the Israelites about the land they had scouted, saying, "The country that we traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers. All the people that we saw in it are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The Anakites are part of the Nephilim, and we look like grasshoppers to ourselves, so we must have looked to them."
Okay, I think that we need to point out that the word Nephilim means giants.
That's right.
And the word calumnies is the making of false or defamatory statements about someone in order to damage their reputation. It is slander.
Yeah, yeah. Also, this was in my this was my bat mitzvah pasha, so I was very impressed about how they to themselves looked like grasshoppers, because that's what they felt like. That didn't mean that it was that they I mean that these people were big, but it was like they had this idea that they couldn't conquer it because of that.
That's great. Yeah. Do you want to continue reading, Ruth, or you want to share some more?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. No.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole community broke
Thank
into
you, Ann.
loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, the whole community shouted at them. Or if we might die in this wilderness. Why is the Eternal taking us to the land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. Here we go again. I want to go back to Egypt. Okay. And they said to one another, let us head back to Egypt. Yeah, right. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembled congregation of Israelites. And Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, of those who had scouted the land, rent their clothes and escorted their whole Israelite community. The land that we traversed and scouted is an exceedingly good land. If pleased with us, the Eternal will bring us into that land, a land that flows with milk and honey. Give it to us. Only you must not rebel against the Eternal. Have no fear then of the people of the country, for they are our prey. Their protection has departed from them, but the Eternal is with us. Have no fear of them. As the whole community threatened to pelt them with stones, the presence of the Eternal appeared in the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. I love this statement because it goes to show you always about how human beings have so many different kind of projections, opinions,
Frailties.
frailties. I mean, all the parts of human being is a lot in these couple of paragraphs,
Right. And how intense it was. I didn't realize how they were ready to
Oh,
stone
yeah.
them. It was
This is-
intense.
was
And they're
very
like
intense.
tearing their
Which
clothes
is why
and they're
God had
screaming.
to get rid of those generations. That's why they wandered around for 40 years.
Right,
Never
right,
be satisfied.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Eternal One said to Moses, how long will this people spurn me? And how long will they have no faith in me, despite all the signs that I have performed in their midst? I will strike them with pestilence and disown them, and I will make of you a nation far more numerous than they. But Moses said to the Eternal, when the Egyptians from whose midst you brought up this people in your might hear the news, they will tell it to the inhabitants of that land. Now they have heard that you, Eternal One, are in the midst of this people, that you, Eternal One, appear in plain sight when your cloud rests over them, and when you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and in a pillar of fire by night. And if then you slay this people wholesale, the nations who have heard your fame will say, it must be because the Eternal was powerless to bring that people into the land, promised them an oath that God slaughtered them in the wilderness. Therefore, I pray, let my Lord's forbearance be great, as you have declared, saying, the Eternal slow to anger and abounding in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, yet not remitting all punishment, but visiting the iniquity of parents upon children upon the third and fourth generations. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of this people, according to your great kindness, as you have forgiven this people ever since Egypt. This is a very powerful statement, really. Okay. And the Eternal One said, I pardon as you have asked. Nevertheless, I live, and as the Eternal's presence fills the whole world, none of the adults who have seen my presence and the signs that I have performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, who have tried me these many times and have disobeyed me, shall see the land that I promised on oath to their fathers. None of those who spurn me shall see it, but my servant Caleb, because he was imbued with a different spirit and remained loyal to me. Him will I bring into the land that he entered, and his offspring shall hold it as a possession. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites occupy the valleys. Start out, then tomorrow, and march into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds.
Okay, we need to stop in here for a second. Okay,
Yeah.
so God says because of everything that you guys have done, you're all going to die in the desert.
Mhm.
with the exception of Caleb. However,
That's
there was
right.
another exception too. Who was that?
Joshua.
Joshua.
Yeah. that'd be-
That's
So
right.
why doesn't it say Caleb and Joshua?
I think it does later on, doesn't it?
it
Well,
might.
I think Joshua was expected and Caleb was not.
Yeah.
Why was
I mean-
Joseph? Why would he be? Okay, both of you know, of the 12 people, 10 said, don't go. It's horrendous. We're going to die, and we want to go back to Egypt. But both Caleb and Joshua said, no, let's go in there. So why doesn't it say both of them in that paragraph?
Because Joshua was expected to do the right thing.
Why?
Because God said so.
Where?
But God, I mean, I know Joshua was with Moses like all the time. Wasn't he like the right hand of Moses when they
Well,
went into the tent of meeting?
so was, and Michael.
Well, it actually says it in the commentary here. It says, since Joshua's name is omitted, critics see here a Caleb tradition as distinguished from a Joshua and Caleb tradition. And so it's then I have to read about the essay, which I don't know where that is now.
Yeah, later.
But it seemed like what Myrna said is true. We already knew that Joshua. It was said before about Joshua. So I don't know. I just think the Caleb thing was because Caleb had a different whole attitude
Right.
when he went out to Canaan, and that's
He's a new one.
Right,
yeah.
But look at the faith he had.
right. And he had to probably be
Well,
brought up
that's
to
the
Joshua's
point.
level.
That's what I was getting at. Is that it's so amazing how you can have like a whole mass of people say one thing, and one person says, no, let's take a look at this a different way, and that might be the way that's best for everybody. But that's why I've had a lot of discussions with people about that just because there's masses of people saying something, it doesn't mean it's always true,
That's
I
right.
think it's interesting that God seems to stop and ask Moses for his opinion, instead of just carrying out the sentence and not doing it. It's like he wants Moses to talk him out of it somehow. Like he doesn't really want to do it, and he wants, is trying to find a way, because otherwise he's powerful enough, he could just do it.
Yeah, he feels like he needs Moses to be his whisperer. Get me down off this ledge for a minute, because I'm about to.
Yeah, see, now I think of it as Moses Moses is kind of the representative of, come on, let's try to work this out. That's how I look at it. That God is actually wanting to have the discussion between him and Moses, as Moses is the representative of people that would kind of want to have a discussion about it. That's how I look at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you
And
see where they mentioned the Sea of Reeds and say that wasn't supposed to be, that was incorrect?
The
See
Sea of
that thing
Reeds.
there?
Was it down here?
No, it's up here, right here. March into the
The
wilderness by the
location of the sea is in doubt.
Oh,
See at 21:4.
21,
21:4.
21:4.
Wait,
See right here, 20. That's 25. 21.
Wait a minute.
What does that mean? 21:4.
See, it says the location of the sea is in doubt.
But where's 21? 21. Oh, wait a minute. So this is what's chapter are we on? We're on Numbers 14. So maybe it's Numbers 21:4.
Oh,
So that might be later on. Maybe we'll have to keep
We'll
making
have to
note of
find
it.
out later on.
Yeah. And I mean, isn't this the second time Moses says to God, you can't do it. Don't, wasn't it the golden calf? Wasn't that the first one that we heard God was going to wipe them out? And Moses says, well, just wipe my name out instead. Just wipe, just the brilliant, that humility, that and power that really Moses embodied, that those the dual purpose. I mean, just such a, it's just an amazing, what an amazing leader he was.
think of how many times, never mind the people being tested, God was tested. I mean, he's at the brink of saying, screw it, I don't want you at all, you know. But, you know, here, he doesn't give in. He, as much as he's pushed, he does stay with us. But it's really frustrating, but that's human nature.
Right.
Well, I think this is the whole point of Torah, is it's all a lesson. Everything
right.
we're reading is lessons as human beings. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just think the whole thing of Torah is about listening and learning lessons. Yeah.
Right.
You know.
And I've heard several rabbis say that this is that this incident was the only thing that God could not forgive in Torah. It was and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've Rabbi Kudan has said as much, and several other rabbis I listen to on YouTube have said that this instance was the only time when it was, nope, you know, you didn't take the gift that I put before you, so I'm going to take that off the table, except for those two people, Caleb and Joshua. And even Moses, I mean, he doesn't even say Moses is going. You know, at this point, that's kind of like, that's such a, another topic that's, we could go on and on about. But the big thing for me, when I first read this story, of course, I'm always thinking like, oh, if they just went in, if they just did it, if they just kind of just accepted it and did the whole thing, and then it could have been so great for everybody. But as Ruthie points out, we wouldn't have the lesson. Thousands of years later, we wouldn't have
everything
this
is
lesson.
a lesson.
It's important to get the lesson. That's so
I
incredible.
have
But
to
there's
get the
another
lesson
thing.
every week.
Yeah.
Another thing that we have to be aware of, as trialing, as miserable as these people are, God still in the end forgives them and goes on. And I just think that he doesn't give up on us.
Oh, that's,
Because who knows, we could have been there.
Ruth, you're onto
Yeah.
something.
yes.
I want to put this in perspective. There are in the universe 1 billion of suns, maybe 100 billion solar systems, trillions and trillions of planets. And God made a vow, he made a promise to a couple of people and a small tribe of people on the third rock of the sun in one of the hundreds of billions of solar systems. And he made that covenant and he hung around to fight with them. This is really an act of ethical statements where I gave you a promise. I told you you are the important people to me, the chosen people, and I have 1 trillion other planets, and I'm going to see this through. I just think that that's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Very powerful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Does he have time? Or she have time?
Yeah, that's right. And
Well, and Ed, you know that when God made man, oh geez, I forgot the joke because I think that Jordan is with us.
What are you gonna tell me?
I remember it now because it's in the Bible somewhere. When God made man, she was kidding.
there you go.
There's some better ones, but I'm not going there.
A good try.
I have a problem with that, though. I like to think of God as a man, and just because our Father who art in heaven, I'm so used to saying he, I can't conceive of a
Okay,
female.
Okay, but because we
It's a joke, Myrna.
No, but there are some people who actually believe that.
Well, no matter if they believe it or not, see what you don't understand. Let's say there are people. Why do you get upset about somebody else's belief? See, you notice that
I
when
get
you
upset when they try to change the wording for everybody
Well, I don't think they're trying to change it. They're just saying it for themselves, you know.
And there is a line in the book of Genesis where when God the first creation story, God says that God created them male and female as God is, or something like it. I'm paraphrasing it incorrectly.
In the image of God.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Let us
Is male
create
and
them in
female.
our image.
Yeah,
There
he
you go. Thank
created
you.
them.
Yeah. What was that again, Gary? What was that?
Let us create them in our image.
Right.
And there was male and female.
And Alba is in the background saying God is female. So that's just
Yes.
that's the end of it.
Didn't they say that there's
Case
something about
closed.
like ambisex or something with God, that there's a he and a she?
What's that?
There's something about that I remember hearing that in one of the study groups. Does anybody remember ever hearing that? Michael Zeitcher, are you there?
Yes, I am. But you know, the way that I was brought up is that God has no gender. God is neither male nor female. In fact, I think that the word is a hermaphrodite.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know,
God is
that
God.
a word. It has two sexes in one. That's the proper definition.
That's correct.
That's,
Both sexes in one. Oh yeah, all right, I'll concede to that.
God isn't human though, so that's
Mhm.
different, slightly different. Okay, so let's go back to our reading, shall we?
Where are we?
At number 26. Do you want to
Okay.
finish this?
Yeah, I'll finish something.
Yeah.
The Eternal One spoke further to Moses and Aaron. How much longer shall that wicked community keep muttering against me? Very well, I have heeded the incessant muttering of the Israelites against me. Say to them, as I live, says the Eternal, I will do to you just as you have urged me. In this very wilderness shall your carcasses drop. Of all of you men who were recorded in your various lists from the age of 20 years up, you who have muttered against me, not one shall enter the land in which I swore to settle you, save Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun. Your children who you said would be carried off, these will I allow to enter. They shall know the land that you have rejected. But your carcasses shall drop in this wilderness. While your children roam the wilderness for 40 years, suffering for your faithlessness until the last of your carcasses is down in the wilderness. You shall bear your punishment for 40 years, corresponding to the number of days, 40 days that you scouted the land, a year for each day. Thus you shall know what it means to thwart me. I, the Eternal, have spoken. Thus will I do to all that wicked band that has banded together against me. In this very wilderness they shall die and so be finished off.
Okay, so if we take a look at verse 30, that's where it says Caleb and Joshua.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
I knew
interesting.
it said that at some point. I remember reading it. Yeah. Remember, I did a bat mitzvah when I was an adult in 2009 because I never had a bat mitzvah when I was a kid. So this was a very important pasha to me at the time. Yeah. Yeah.
The interesting part of this is you can always say that they wandered around for 40 years because of these people, that they were so negative and so against him.
Right.
Right.
So we blame
But
it on that.
That's pretty much said in that paragraph anyway.
Yeah,
Right,
it
right.
is. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
right.
But that's I love the thought too that, like as you mentioned, Myrna, God did not abandon them even after 40 years. That's the
Right.
beauty. That's the beauty of it.
But
Thank
the
you so much
image
for
of their carcasses died. That
yeah, carcasses.
that
That's
image.
like it's harsh.
Animals.
Woo. Do you want to? How about Cynthia? Cynthia, do you want to continue? Thank you so much, Ruth. And
No
always
problem.
Love to have you.
As for
36.
the emissaries who Moses sent to scout the land, those who came back and caused the whole community to mutter against him by spreading calumnies about the land. Those who spread such calumnies about the land died of plague by the will of the Eternal. Of those emissaries who had gone to scout the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. When Moses repeated these words to all the Israelites, the people were overcome by grief. Early next morning, their fighting force set out toward the crest of the hill country, saying, "We are prepared to go up to the place that the Eternal has spoken of, for we were wrong." But Moses said, "Why do you transgress the Eternal's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up, lest you be routed by your enemies, for the Eternal is not in your midst. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites will be there to face you, and you will fall by the sword, inasmuch as you have turned from following the Eternal, and the Eternal will not be with you." Yet defiantly they marched toward the crest of the hill country, though neither the Eternal's Ark of the Covenant nor Moses stirred from the camp. And the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in the hill country came down and dealt them a shattering blow at Hormah. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I am giving you to settle in, and would present an offering by fire to the Eternal from the herd or from the flock, be it burnt offering or sacrifice in fulfillment of a vow explicitly uttered, or as a fire freewill offering, or at your fixed occasions, producing an odor pleasing to the Eternal. The person who presents the offering to the Eternal shall bring as a meal offering a tenth of a measure of choice flour with a quarter of a hin of oil mixed in. You shall also offer with the burnt offering of the sacrifice a quarter of a hin of wine as a libation for each sheep. In the case of a ram, you shall present as a meal offering 2/10 of a measure of choice flour with a third of a hin of oil mixed in, and a third of a hin of wine as a libation, as an offering of pleasing odor to the Eternal. And if it is an animal from the herd that you offer to the Eternal as a burnt offering or as a sacrifice in fulfillment of a vow explicitly uttered or as an offering of well-being, there shall be offered a meal offering along with the animal 3/10 of a measure of choice flour with half a hin of oil mixed in. And as libation you shall offer half a hin of wine, these being offerings by fire of pleasing odor to the Eternal. Thus shall be done with each ox, with each ram, and with any sheep or goat. As many as you offer, you shall do thus with each one, as many as there are. Every citizen, when presenting an offering by fire of pleasing odor to the Eternal, shall do so with them.
Before we go on, just amazing. I'm just thinking about what we just read about how Moses had to go back to the Israelites and explain the whole thing, like, nope, it's over, we're not going in, and then that group wants to go in, like, no, we can do it. And he's like, forget it, it's over, it's done. And I mean, it's wow, I don't know, it's just so much to think about. So much to think.
Well, obviously God was not with them, and they kind of felt we could do it ourselves, and that was a very stupid thing.
Really, and I mean, even to think about Moses and how he had to get the words from God, and then he'd have to, and the people were already at a state of civil war just about, right? Because they were taking up stones to throw at Caleb and Joshua, and now he's got to deal with these people and just say, okay, look, it's not going to happen. This is the way it's going to be. You're all going to die in the desert.
You'll never see the promised land.
Yeah, exactly. And your children will go in, but that's about it. And then Moses, what a tough guy. And then they're like, and then the people are like, no, we're gonna do it. We can do it. And Moses is like, why? Why do you bother? Why do you bother? Like, why? This is the new way. All of a sudden, like once the slate's clean, why do you think it's okay to do what you didn't want to do like 10 minutes ago? It's amazing. What a lot of, just so much to think about. Anyway, I digress. Anybody else? Gary.
I actually alluded to the 12 spies when I spoke to the Malden congregation prior to on Rosh Hashanah, prior to our consolidation, and I was talking about how the search committees from both temples well, I was talking mostly about our own, but either way, that is they all went out looking for like the congregations and scouting the congregations locally to consolidate with. That they went out like the 12 spies, but unlike the 12 spies, they didn't see themselves as grasshoppers. Nobody did. Everybody saw themselves as confident giants. and that's what I was saying, that, you know, that's what we all basically, you know, we won't have to wander for 40 years. We'll only have to just go up the road 10 miles, you know. And you know, I alluded to the 12 spies though. That was kind of.
I do remember that, Gary. I do
it.
remember your speech. I do remember it. Yeah.
Gary, do you remember what I said to you right after you finished that speech? I said.
I remember you said, yeah.
I said that was the most important speech, the most important devar that I had ever heard, and it came at the absolute right time. And I said that it was God speaking out of your mouth. Do you remember that?
And you know, I do. And you know what else was interesting too? When I was talking to Elaine after it, while I was talking to her, Shoshana sent her a text message saying that she liked the fact that I alluded to JFK, you know.
Yes, I remember that.
Right.
That was, I have to say that devar was the most key devar in the modern history of Temple Tifereth Israel.
Boy, that's a wonderful compliment to you, Gary.
It
Very nice.
It was magnificent because
Yeah.
I
remember
never
it. I
thought
remember listening to it. Right.
So Gary was the
pretty cool.
appointed one.
No, he
Yes.
was the president. He was the president.
No, I meant.
Yes.
he was the
in this
Joshua.
case.
Oh, right,
yes,
right,
at that
right, right.
time.
Was one of the spies.
We all managed to go into the promised land.
That's it. And look what you found here. Aren't you lucky?
Were you going to add something, Jordan?
No, I was going to say we're all blessed, but yes, I remember Bill Gordon was one of the spies that Gary was referring to. Did a great job in tracking down the merger. Yeah.
Incredible. It's like, because I don't, you know, I came so much later. It's so interesting because I don't know who's on what, where people came from originally. So it's always.
But you
good.
know
That's
what's
good.
interesting that's not mentioned, even though I wasn't on the board at the time, I remember the discussion of people grumbling about, well, do we really want to go? You remember all that stuff that people were saying, oh, how are we ever going to drive that far? Do you remember all that discussion, Jordan and Ed?
Well, when Jeff
Well,
Kahn was president,
we came to a point of, impasse, and we had to meet an emergency Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we were to walk away from the deal. And the person who had been very critical of much of this came forward and said, no, we're not walking away. We have to go back and renegotiate and make this work. You remember that? You remember that, Gary?
Was it Ruth Kaufman?
No, it was me.
But I remember. But you remember Ruth
Everybody
Kaufman?
said, walk away, walk away, walk. And I said, no, we're not walking. And people were surprised.
And Ed, what was your objection?
Wasn't my objection. Everybody there but me, and I was able to change their mind.
and I remember a lot of people concerned about Malden having to schlep all the way to Peabody.
Yeah, that's what I remember the
Hours and
discussion
hours
about,
to
is the
take out.
schlep, yeah.
Yeah, we
That
had
was
an
what I
issue.
remember.
We had a critical issue. We'll talk about it some other time, but it's all gone. So let's not worry about it.
Yes, exactly.
Go forward, as Gary said. The spies have returned, and we got good results.
Just like the Jews and wandering in the desert, you had the naysayers just the same way.
Well, you know
Human
the story of Jews wandering the desert of the oil fields and coming to Israel with no oil. That's it.
Good point.
Oh, fantastic. Cynthia, would you like to continue this
Sure.
page? Yeah.
And when throughout the ages a stranger who has taken up residence with you, or one who lives among you, would present an offering by fire of pleasing odor to the Eternal, as you do, so shall it be done. So shall it be done by the rest of the congregation. There shall be one law for you and for the resident stranger. It shall be a law for all time throughout the ages. You and the stranger shall be alike before the Eternal. The same ritual and the same rule shall apply to you and to the stranger who resides among you. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat of the bread of the land, you shall set some aside as a gift to the Eternal. As the first yield of your baking, you shall set aside a loaf as a gift. You shall set it aside as a gift like the gift from the threshing floor. You shall make a gift to the Eternal from the first yield of your baking throughout the ages. If you unwittingly fail to observe any one of the commandments that the Eternal has declared to Moses, anything that the Eternal has enjoined upon you through Moses, from the day that the Eternal gave the commandment and on through the ages. If this was done unwittingly throughout the inadvertence of the community leaders shall present one bull of the herd as a burnt offering of pleasing odor to the Eternal, with its proper meal offering and libation, and one he-goat as the purgation offering. The priest shall make expiation for the whole Israelite community, and they shall be forgiven. For it was an error, and for their error they have brought their offering, an offering by fire to the Eternal, and their purgation offering before the Eternal. The whole Israelite community and the stranger residing among them shall be forgiven, for it happened to the entire people through error. But the person, whether citizen or stranger.
I think we're at 27. I'm sorry, 27.
Am I in the wrong place? Oh, I'm sorry. In case it is an individual who has sinned unwittingly, that person shall offer a she-goat in its first year as a purgation offering. The priest shall make expiation before the Eternal on behalf of the person who erred, for having sinned unwittingly, making such expiation that the person may be forgiven. For the citizen among the Israelites and for the stranger who resides among them, you shall have one ritual for anyone who acts in error. But the person, whether citizen or stranger, who acts defiantly reviles the Eternal, that person shall be cut off from among the people. Because it was the word of the Eternal that was spurned, and God's commandment that was violated, that person shall be cut off and bears the guilt. Once, when the Israelites were in the wilderness, one of their fellows was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him as he was gathering wood brought him before Moses, Aaron, and the community leadership. He was placed in custody, for it had not been specified what should be done to him. Then the Eternal said to Moses, "This fellow shall be put to death. The community leadership shall pelt him with stones outside the camp." It's a hell of a thing for God to tell people to do, I'm sorry. So the community leadership took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Eternal had commanded Moses.
It's such a hard thing. It is hard to.
Yeah, some of this stuff really.
But
we
they
don't
had to
know if there were
establish.
extenuating circumstances. Maybe he had a sick wife or something,
Well-
and she was cold.
Michael, if you can come back to that paragraph for a second.
Okay.
There's something in there that I don't understand. Once, when the Israelites were in the wilderness is the desert.
The desert.
Right.
One of their fellows was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day.
Right.
What wood? There is no wood in the desert.
Now you're being very picky.
No, I think that's a good question. I think
That's a
that's a
good
great
question.
question. It's a great question.
I would think there would be wood near any of the fountains, any of the water sources. Wouldn't there be wood in like the little oasis things?
There you go. Maybe, definitely.
Well, where does it say here? Gathering wood probably in order to make a fire, which is forbidden in the Sabbath, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that we know. Hence the later plea by his 5 daughters, what should be done to him and what manner of death penalty. It seems like there was a discussion of how he's supposed to be killed by this commentary. This is why I still believe the Talmud is very important, not the Midrash, the Talmud, which is different than the Midrash. I want people to understand that there was the explanation of the Torah also given to Moses, and that was studied later on with the rabbis. But there is explanations for a lot of the things we don't make sense of in the Torah.
Okay, Michael, can you go back to the previous page? Let's take a look at the commentary for a minute. It will be at the bottom. Okay, here's a little trivia question. On the 36, according to the rabbi, this is explanation now.
Right.
Rabbinical, not biblical. There were 4 types of execution: stoning, burning, dying by the sword, and by strangling. And then 2 additional divine actions. There's your trivia question right there.
So what's the question?
Okay, how many different types of executions?
Sorry. Okay, so we got that there's 4. But I mean,
4 and 2 is 6.
what determined the stoning for this poor guy then, you know?
Well, you know, one of the questions that I asked one of the rabbis that I was studying under, I said, you know, when did they decide to do one of those 4? And honest to God, I never got. He said to me, wait until the end of the class, and I got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there are no answers even in Talmud. I'm saying there's not always an answer to any of these things, unfortunately.
You know, if you look at 32, gathering wood, it's a little bit up in the air because it says probably in order to make a fire, which was forbidden on the Sabbath. It doesn't say the gathering of the wood was forbidden on the Sabbath. It's what they assumed he was going to do with it. Anybody have any feelings about that, 32?
Well, I thought that also you can't carry anything, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would have thought, but it goes right into.
Well, it's not. That's what I'm getting at. Is they're just giving a little. They're giving a little blurb there, but there's much more explanation in the Talmud about it. There's an entire tractate on fire in the Talmud. What I'm trying to say is that they go into it so much in detail. It's so much more detail. That's all I can tell you. You know.
And you know, gathering wood, I think I could look at that as maybe being, you know, having work, doing work.
That's what I would normally have said.
Yeah.
But there's even more explanations than that, and you really have to be able to read Aramaic and Hebrew very well to study it. It's a lot. It's, you know.
All right, we're coming to the end. Gary, do you want to wrap up the final one about the fringes? Yeah.
I will be happy to.
Wonderful, man.
Yeah.
The Eternal One said to Moses as follows: Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of the Eternal and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. Thus you shall be reminded to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. Ani Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeti atem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem leElohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Okay, I have one little.
Amen.
Amen. I have one little comment. If you notice, it says, let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe of each corner. Just recently in Israel, this is very true, just fairly recent, the last few years, in Israel, they found this special type of fish crab. I don't know what it is, but it had that blue dye that they didn't have for many, many, many years. And so now because they didn't have that blue string to put in, that blue dye to put on the string of the tzitzis of the talus. But now they did find that exact color from this animal. I don't know, it's some type of sea animal that there you'll see some people that have kosher taluses that have that blue string now. It's very interesting.
That is. Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
That's great. And the other thing too is that I have to bring in this part, which to to look at the fringe, right? That should be the fringe, and look at it, okay? Look at the fringe and recall the commandments.
Yeah, because it's
Observe it.
613, yeah, right. Mm.
And then this last phrase, that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge, which that is that's interesting to me, because in Christianity there's the teacher of Christianity talks about, do not look, if you've already, you know, what he says is, if you've already thought about doing something with another person, you've already committed the sin, type of a thing. So I look at, when I see Torah and I see, I mean, there's just so much there. I mean, Christianity couldn't work without Torah, you know, it just wouldn't happen.
I spoke about that Friday night about controlling your urges, like, remember?
Yeah.
Didn't Jimmy
You know,
Carter
the
say?
graves of craving.
They say, do not lust in your heart.
In my heart, I fantasizing. God forgives
And
me.
yet, this is another human aspect that we all struggle with, and that's why it's mentioned. It's because everybody has some, I mean, I can't say from anybody else, but I can't say that I've never had some urge to do something that's inappropriate.
I can tell you I don't. Elaine has a gun.
Yay!
Good for Elaine.
Alba does too.
That's
Do not
right.
lust in your
I
mind.
have
That's
a machine gun.
She has a machine gun. You guys are
Yeah,
great.
baby.
Oh, amazing. Awesome. So that's the fringes. That's why we wear the fringes.
And you understand, Michael, that if you count all of the knots, it adds up to 613. That's our commandments. Right.
Oh, interesting.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thanks so much, guys, for a wonderful night. I mean, I'm always
This was my Torah portion. I better knew something out of this.
Now, how much was it your portion? Was it the whole thing? You
Almost. I did a good 3 big chunks. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, were you there, Ed, the night that I did? It was on a Friday night. I had my whole family there. I was the only one doing my bat mitzvah. You were there, Gary. You were in the choir.
I remember.
Oh yeah, right. And Maureen and Sarah Beardsley had sewed me
Yes, I do.
a tallis. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It was very special. It was a very special night. Yeah. And the fact that I had both my brothers there, which was quite unusual, it was pretty impressive. I had my whole family, and my grandchildren were very little at the time. One was only 5 years old, and the other one was 8. So they were little, yeah.
Remember the old joke, today I have a fountain pen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
My wife, my daughter had 2 bar mitzvahs. My wife was bar mitzvahed when she was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, that's a double.
That's a double, right?
What were you going to say, Jordan?
Maureen had 2 adult bat mitzvahs, one
Yes.
a long time ago, and recently before, a couple of years before she
Her
passed.
first one was with Elaine, wasn't it?
Yes, that's absolutely true,
That's
Gary.
right, okay.
Because they had that, they had the
I
picture at
wasn't there
TTI.
then. I wasn't a
Yeah.
member of the synagogue then.
I
But,
wasn't either, but they used to have the picture on. It says Maureen still had her red hair.
Yeah,
and
right.
everything.
And then unfortunately, the weekend that she had, I had some other commitment that weekend, but I had heard all about it from everybody.
I had one with a group of women who had never been bat mitzvahed. But unfortunately, my son died during that period, and I didn't want to go back. And they all said, come back, because I missed quite a few. But they said, no, you should come back.
You can still do it, Myrna, if you'd like.
Well, no, I
but-
did it. I finished with them, and I read the V'hafta, as a matter of fact, from the Torah. But I always feel that I really wasn't as fully prepared as I normally would have been.
I understand. That's a tough situation.
It was. But they all insisted I come back.
Right.
It was nice of them. Well, people, it was a very stimulating evening.
It really was great.
We thank you all.
I'm gonna leave because I have to do something, so I'm going to
Is
leave a
your
little
cat
early
still
tonight.
sleeping? Before we go, I'd like Dr. Ed to show us, he said he had a dinosaur.
Oh, here he goes.
Oh,
He's
that's
ready
the
to go.
dinosaur.
Let me pin you. Wow.
Is those bones?
Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Are these ancestors of the bigger dinosaurs, or did they live? You don't know the age and so on.
Oh, that was 250 million years old around.
Wow. Is
Give or
that life
take 'em,
size? Is that the real size?
Oh, I remember it well.
Yeah, that's a mature Kichiosaur, and it came from China. And at one point, it's kind of an interesting story. They were exporting them. China was exporting them. Very difficult to do, but exporting them. And China said, stop exporting them to the 2 or 3 companies that were doing that. And they did not stop. And one day, just before they were going to load them onto a ship, the Chinese government opened up the container and found them and got all of the people who were exporting them and all of the other dealers from the community who exported them and shot them all.
Oh, wow. How many years? Wait a minute. How many years ago was this?
About 10 or 15 years ago, they shot all of
Wow.
shot them all.
They were serious.
God.
They were serious. I got a number of these in a legal way, but I usually don't show them because apparently the Chinese government is looking to repatriate some of the stuff.
And they don't want to get shot.
Now I went to China a number of times, and I went to a couple dealers, and I asked them in Chinese, "Do you have fossils?" And the word for fossil in Chinese is "kuashir," and which means fossil, and the word for dinosaur is the same word for dragon, which is long. So I said, "Niomi long quasher, do you have dinosaur fossils?" And they looked at me and they walked in the opposite direction.
Oh gosh,
Really?
they were afraid they were going to get shot.
They walked in the opposite direction. Would not even talk to me about it.
Wow.
And
You
then
were
I
lucky
found,
you didn't get shot.
well, Elaine found, this is for another story, but Elaine found the black market of Beijing, the black market in China and Beijing. And again, I speak enough Chinese. I really did well in that time to find the place and go there. And it was fascinating, just fascinating what they had to sell. But when I said, "Can I get these out of the United States?" to the United States, they kind of looked at me funny and said sort of no. And we did the same. She found the black markets of Bangkok, Thailand, and I went there and I saw something magnificent, and they only wanted a couple $100 for it. It was an ornate Buddha head, and I said, "Can I take this to the United States?" And they said to me, "You're an American, you have pockets." And which means you can smuggle them. And I said, "No, thank you, I'm out of here."
Oh, why?
Ed, did
Well,
you
you
ever
have
go to
some
South
quite
Hadley and
interesting-
see the big dinosaur footprints?
I have them. Would you like to see one?
Yeah.
Uh,
How do you have one? What do you mean you have one?
I have a dinosaur. I have a dinosaur egg. I have a dinosaur footprints.
Really?
Yes, would you like?
Where
I
do you
will
have
dig-
all this room in your house?
Remember, I just bought a huge farm.
No, that's right.
Oh, God.
That's true.
What was hidden?
I'm sorry. The best dinosaur footprints in the world come out of the Connecticut Valley.
Yeah, well, South Hadley is where I saw them.
Yes, and I have. I inherited from a close friend of mine dinosaur footprints and dinosaur eggs. I am the ultimate. If you went to my first talk on Kol Nidre, you might remember when I was president, I talked about being the ultimate Chazarai collector.
Right, right.
Oh.
Right.
I think you have expensive Hazarai.
Yeah, you got expensive Hazarai.
Well, I have always been in the right place at the right time, not to spend millions of dollars on this stuff, but I have been able to. And Elaine is a Chazarai collector too. And I will tell you, true Chazarai collectors should not marry.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of Hazarai.
I have a quick question to ask Monique. Monique, did your daughter ever have a chance to get in touch with my niece in London?
Not yet. She's going to, but she's settling in right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's not. Oh, she didn't get in touch with her before she left. Oh,
No,
okay.
she said she was gonna wait. They arrived in England last Thursday.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So she has all your niece's information. She said she'll get in touch with her when she's ready.
Okay, very good.
But
Okay,
thank you.
excellent.
Yeah, she has all the information.
Good.
Ruth, since you're so knowledgeable about the biblical blue,
Yeah.
okay, what is the name of the biblical blue?
What is the
Oh, I
name
used to
of
know that. Now I
in
don't.
Hebrew, what is the name in Hebrew of the biblical blue, the one that we used to use?
Oh, gosh, I once knew it and I don't know
Yeah,
right now.
me too.
What
But
is
I
it?
thought it was from a sea,
Okay,
a
ready?
seashell or some sort.
Yeah.
The tailit.
Oh, Techelet, of course. I should have known. I did know that. I did.
How
know
do you
that.
spell it?
Techelet, yeah. In Hebrew,
Well,
Te-
anglicize it.
Oh,
Tailit.
TCHELET.
E-T. E-T, yeah,
Yeah,
Techelet, yeah.
Cynthia,
Yeah, you know why I know that? Because when I used to go to camp, we used to say Techelet and what's white in Hebrew? I'm telling you, my mind is going. What's
Joy
white?
nine.
Techelet, and what's the other word? We used to always use those when we used to sing the Hatikva. We used to sing we used to sing the Star Spangled Banner and Hatikva every night.
Wow.
I can't, and Techelet in the color white in Hebrew is mentioned, but I can't remember it now.
Blue and white.
I'm sorry.
Okay, one last question for you.
Okay.
What nation prohibited the Israelites from making tailit?
Well, then I don't
What
remember.
nation?
I don't know.
The Romans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
right,
makes
right,
sense.
Right. Okay.
Wow. That's
Oh, Michael, you're so full of knowledge. What can I say?
Well,
Glad
I'm
you
glad you
added
said that.
so
My
so-
problem is I really
I-
forget names
For
of
a minute
everything.
there, I didn't know what you were going to say.
I know, but I always forget names. I don't know what it is. I don't forget other things, but I forget names now. I'm very.
Yeah, that's my problem too, and
I
especially
forget
somebody who
names.
loves me.
I don't
My
forget
problem-
information, just
And
names.
My
Gary
problem
never
is I can
forgets
never
dates.
remember a face, but I always forget a name.
Yeah, that's very common too.
I don't forget
It's common
anything. I
at
just
our
don't
age, Joy,
remember
I hate to
anything.
say
So how
that.
can I
As
forget
this
anything
nurse
if I don't
in
remember?
Danvers used to say she was a nurse, a Navy nurse, and then she was head of the school committee, and she came late to an honors, excuse me, and we were all sitting on the stage because I give a scholarship memory of my son. We were all sitting on the stage, and she comes in, and it was supposed to be 7. She shows up at like 7:30, and she said, "Oh," she said, "forgive me, I had a junior moment."
A junior moment.
Yeah. I'll never
Oh.
forget that. I thought that was pretty cute.
That's funny.
Gary, do you want to do a song tonight? Before
Well, I was thinking of doing, something wild and crazy.
Don't
And,
alone.
I don't know.
Don Alum, like you could sing other melodies too. So I was thinking of doing 2 in 1 here.
Nice.
So I'm
All
going
right,
to
let's-
start
let's
with
hear
one
it.
and go
Let's just
into
hear it.
another.
Go ahead.
sweet.
Okay.
Do it.
Is everybody muted?
Yeah. Oh, let's do
I
it.
get a
see.
mute. Okay.
Okay, you ready? Adonai Hashem Alak B'Terim Kol Yetzir Nivra V'Yeid Nasa B'Chetzakol Azai Melech Shemoni Kra V'Acharei Kichlo Takol Yevado Yimot Nora V'Hu Haya V'Hu Hoveh V'Hu Yeh B'Tifara
Yay, Gary!
All right,
Lovely.
is that insane or what?
No, very, very nice.
I'm gonna
Very,
keep
very
my
nice.
arms out so they don't throw a net over me there, you know?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Very nice. It's a
Beautiful.
good way to
Everybody
end.
have a great rest of
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Everybody have a great night. We
And
will
we'll
see
see
you
you.
all.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.